So here's the next project. This is I believe it's an 86 Samurai. This one actually belongs to a friend. I did a little video on this early on in my channel. It's kind of hard to film in here. It's pretty crowded. I got this razor in here too right now. Cool thing about this rig, being that it belongs to a friend, is I was with him when he bought it. It was 100% stock, original wheels, everything. So all the fab work and suspension work, I've done all of it. So it's pretty cool. First it started with just a spring over, just a super basic spring over. And he put 31s on it. He did a Sumo 6.4 transfer case gear set. And he ran it like that for a while. I put a lock right in the back. And then to get a smoother ride, went to YJ springs. The rear is using a Sky manufacturing kit. And this kit originally, and springs were originally on the rear of my Samurai before I cut it up and turned it into the race car. So I sold him those brackets and put it on. And then the front, this is all stuff I built. So these are bolt-on YJ adapter brackets, stock wheelbase. These are my long travel shock towers. These are 2-inch diameter, 10-inch stroke FOA reservoir shocks. And then just a regular standard style shackle, no missing links. I'm not a fan of missing links. It's got a trail gear high steer kit. This is something I'm working on this go around. I'm gonna put a drop Pitman arm to get that drag link angle more flat. It's got just a little bit of bump steer. It's got properly set up bump stops. They hit about 1 inch before the shocks bottom out. And then that rubber will compress. So it saves the shocks and, still nets the most possible up travel. Like I said, they're 10-inch travel shocks and it can use it all. When I did the YJ conversion, I also did a front lock right. It's got RCV axle shafts. Totally gone through and rebuilt front axle. Basically exactly the same process I went through on that last one, other than the lock right, different locker. I built this front bumper, bolt on, uses the original lights. I feel like it's got a pretty nice look, matches the fender line and everything nice. Got a light bar on it, no winch right now, but underneath the top is open and there's room. Should be able to fit an 8,000 pound winch in there. But I think he's gonna go with a smaller UTV frame sized winch, like a 5,000. I built a setup here, a little spacer. These wheels have more back spacing than the original wheels, so I needed a spacer so the tire wasn't smashed against the tailgate. And then I put these little receiver hitches on here so you could put a bracket to hold a high lift jack or like a whip mount for the sand dunes or whatever, rotopack mounts. I did these little LED backup lights, because the stock ones are pretty lame. The rear's got the same 10-inch shocks, my lower and upper shock mounts. It's got an upper cross member that tips the shocks in to get longer shocks without cutting into the floor. With these springs and these shocks, this thing rides really nice. And these shocks are, you can take them apart and rebuild them and revalve them and basically tune them to whatever you want. These I spec'd out when I ordered them, and I was really close. I would say the front are right on the money. The rears, We're probably going to valve them just a touch softer. You know, I'm sure if you own a Samurai, you know it's tough to get the rear to not kick like when you hit harsh bumps, because you know your butt is so close to the back tires sitting in it, and it's just kind of the nature of the dynamics of bumps. You know, the rear, you usually feel the rear more than the front. So anyway, we're gonna pull the rears off and revalve them at some point. I've already started working on it, doing the aluminum door handles inside and out. So yeah, the stuff we're doing, door handles, pulling the lockrights out of both axles and putting the TRE e-lockers in it. It's got a Weber carburetor that needs some tuning, so I'm going to work on that. Drop pitman arm. Kind of give it a once over when I got the wheels off, check the brakes and all that sort of thing. I think that's about it. This is, you know, I'm obviously unbiased because I built it, but this is one of my favorite Samurais of all time. I just really like the look and the stance. If I had control of it, you know, I'd like it to be like an inch or so shorter, but being sprung over on YJ springs, you know, it just kind of is what it is. Oh, the tires and wheels. So these are, I believe, 2002 Suzuki Grand Vitara wheels. And then, what are these, Yokohamas, I believe? Yeah, Yokohamas. It's a 235, 85, 16. So you can see they're very narrow. I would say they're like a 32 by 9 in inch sizing. Me and the owner both like skinny tires, especially on a lightweight rig. It gives you more contact pressure. You know, you got so much weight that is being supported by the contact patch. The smaller that contact patch, the more pressure it has to bite into the ground. And in my experience on Samurais, if you have real wide tires, they don't really dig in so good. You know, and that all depends on what kind of terrain you're playing in. But so one more thing, these wheels, like I said, have more back spacing, and so it's running 1-inch wheel spacers all the way around to get the offset. Basically stock. You can see the fitment's pretty good. They don't really stick out too much. Keeps the side of the car from being totally blasted by mud all the time. And it just drives really good. Matching spare. Oh, that's one more thing we're gonna do. These tires and wheels aren't super heavy, and being that they're narrow helps. But when you use the original spare tire mount with a heavier wheel, these tailgates weren't really built to handle that. So that's one of the projects. I'm going to develop a brace to tie the actual carrier mount into the hinges better. I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to do it yet. Oh, and a rear bumper. That's also on the list of projects this go around. I'm going to build a new rear bumper to match the front, and I'm going to try to keep all the original lights in it, but make them more armored. Like, these are super easy to break, and you can already see that the bumper's kind of droopy, which is a pretty normal thing for a Samurai. This whole rear section kind of droops down. I mean, the stock bumpers are really weak. So I'm going to build something. I want it to look very stock in shape and size, but just be strong and be able to take a hit and not droop down and, you know, get pushed into the body or anything like that. I'm probably going to keep this toe loop. Those are nice for protecting the gas tank. Yeah, so that's the new project. Got a couple weeks worth of work to do on it. Should be pretty nice. One thing I'll point out, being this tall, and if you want to take advantage of all the droop you can get out of these springs, the rear drive lines are pretty tough to keep happy. Of course, I don't have a flashlight on me, but this rear drive line is a 79 to 85 Toyota pickup front drive shaft that's been shortened. And then it's got a later model Samurai, I believe 91 and up, rear flange on the pinion. That way the drive shaft bolts up directly. And then on the transfer case, we didn't have one of those flanges, so it's got an adapter. I believe this is from Low Range or Trail Gear. And then local drive shaft shop in town does a fair amount of off-road stuff, and so they're pretty familiar with what to do. This double cardan CV gets lightly modified inside to handle a little more angle. And so this thing can pull, fully drooped out and nothing binds. And so that way it's able to maximize the wheel travel. The front is just a lengthened stock drive line. And being that the front drive shaft is quite a bit longer than the rear, it handles all the droop just fine by itself as also. I think that's about it. Eventually we're going to put some kind of power steering in it. Right now it's still just manual, but with these narrow tires, it steers just fine, really. Especially for just driving on the street, it steers pretty easy. So that's it for now. I will cover more of these projects in better detail once I get going on them. I'm not going to go too deep in the lockers since I've covered that several times. I might go through and pick up some slack where, maybe something I didn't cover as well. Maybe the wiring, I feel like I didn't cover that great. And there's a discrepancy in the manual on the wiring. I think they maybe changed the harness design. Actually, I went over this already in a little video, but I'll cover it in more detail when I do this. So yeah, so that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the progress on this thing.